Now write the script only for section 1, 800, 900 words. Start with a powerful question instead of a normal introduction. Create a strong hook that instantly captures attention. Build curiosity and emotional tension before entering the main message. Use deep, space-themed motivation, connecting human struggles with the vastness of the universe. Use psychological storytelling, emotional words, and mindset-driven language that inspires action. Offer the audience a reward for staying until the end of the video. Write in paragraph form only. Use simple English. Do not mention visuals, scenes, or speaker names. This is a faceless motivational video. Make every sentence feel cinematic, mysterious, and emotionally powerful. What if everything you know about time is wrong, and you have been living inside an illusion so deep that even your thoughts cannot escape it? You wake up every day believing time is moving forward in a straight line, one second after another, one moment after the next. But have you ever stopped and truly questioned it? Why does time feel fast when you are happy, but painfully slow when you are suffering? Why does your mind bend it, stretch it, break it, as if it is not fixed at all? Quantum physics is now raising a disturbing idea. Time may not be what you think it is. And once you even open the door to that thought, something inside you starts to shift. Because if time is not stable, then nothing in your reality is as secure as you were told. You have been trained since childhood to trust time like a ruler trusts a crown. Seconds, minutes, hours, all neatly organized, all perfectly controlled. But your inner experience does not obey that system. Think about the moments you almost forgot yourself. When you were fully focused, time disappeared. When you were in pain, time slowed down like a dying star collapsing into itself. It is strange, almost disturbing, because something that should be universal feels deeply personal, as if time is not a law of the universe, but a trick of the mind. And this is where things get even more unsettling. In the world of quantum physics, reality does not behave like the solid structure you experience. Particles do not always stay in one state. They exist in probabilities, possibilities, multiple outcomes at the same time. It is as if the universe is not fixed, but constantly choosing what to become. Now imagine that same idea applied to time itself. What if your past is not fully gone? What if your future is not fully decided? What if all of it is happening in a way your mind cannot fully comprehend, like signals traveling through a vast, dark universe where distance loses meaning? You live your life thinking you are moving forward like a spaceship crossing empty space. But what if that journey is not linear at all? What if every moment you experience is already connected, like invisible threads stretching across galaxies? You remember your past as something behind you, but memory itself is not the past. It is only your brain's reconstruction of it, a filtered echo, a rewritten version of something that no longer exists in the same form. That means even your identity is built on something unstable, something fluid, something uncertain. And yet, you still carry the weight of time every single day. You think about what you lost. You think about what is coming. You feel pressure to move faster, to become something before time runs out. But what if time is not running out at all? What if it is not even moving in the way you believe? This thought is not meant to confuse you. It is meant to shake something awake inside you. Because most human suffering does not come from reality itself. It comes from the belief that reality is fixed and uncontrollable. Like being trapped in a collapsing star, thinking there is no escape, when in truth, the structure you fear may not even be solid. There is something deeply powerful hidden inside this confusion. If time is not as rigid as you think, then your life is not as locked as you feel. Every regret, every mistake, every delay you carry in your mind starts to lose its absolute power. You are not just a passenger moving through a straight timeline. You are a consciousness trying to understand a universe that may be far more flexible than you were taught. And that changes everything about how you see yourself. Stay with this idea because what comes next will challenge your understanding even more deeply. By the end of this journey, you will start to see your past differently, your future differently, and even your own thoughts in a completely new way. Not as fixed events, but as something far more mysterious, far more powerful, and far more connected to the fabric of the universe than you ever imagined. Why does the present moment feel so real when it slips through your mind the instant you try to hold it? You think you are standing inside a single point of existence, like a stable command center in deep space. But your experience of now is not as solid as it appears. It is constructed, rebuilt again and again by your brain, like a navigation system constantly correcting a course through unseen cosmic currents. What you call the present is already a processed signal, a delayed interpretation of something that has already shifted. This means you are never actually touching reality directly. You are always slightly behind it, like receiving light from a distant star that left its source long ago. You see brilliance, but not the origin. You feel moments, but not their raw existence. And yet, you trust this version of reality completely without questioning how it is assembled inside you. There is something unsettling about this realization because it suggests that your life is not unfolding in a clean sequence, but being stitched together in fragments. Your attention moves like a probe drifting through dark regions of space, collecting pieces of information, trying to create meaning from scattered signals. And the brain, in its effort to protect stability, turns those fragments into a continuous story. But continuity might be an illusion created for survival, not truth. Think about how memory behaves. You do not remember everything as it was. You remember edited versions, emotional highlights, distorted shadows. Some events become enlarged like massive planets, while others disappear completely into emptiness. This is not a flaw. It is how consciousness maintains balance, but it also means your personal history is not fixed. It is constantly being reshaped by the present version of you. So, who are you really? The one who lived it or the one rewriting it? This question becomes even heavier when you realize how easily time bends under human experience. When you are waiting for something important, each second feels stretched, almost resistant. When you are absorbed in something meaningful, hours vanish without warning. The flow changes depending on your inner state, as if time is responding to your awareness instead of governing it. This is where psychology and the universe start to echo each other in strange ways. Just as deep space is not empty, but filled with invisible forces shaping movement, your mind is not empty either. It is filled with attention, emotion, and expectation, all bending your sense of duration. What feels like a universal rule is actually a shifting experience shaped by internal gravity. There is a reason difficult moments feel longer. Your awareness expands under stress, scanning more details, processing more signals, trying to find safety in uncertainty. It is like drifting near a massive gravitational field where every small movement feels slowed and heavy. Meanwhile, in moments of joy or deep focus, your awareness compresses. It locks onto one direction and everything else disappears, creating the sensation that time has collapsed. So the question becomes deeper. If the experience of time depends on your inner state, then where does time actually exist? You begin to notice something strange. You cannot find it outside yourself. You only find measurements, tools, and agreements, clocks, calendars, systems created to synchronize human activity. But none of these explain the feeling of time passing. They only describe coordination, not experience. The real mystery is not the clock on the wall, but the shifting sensation inside your awareness. It is as if consciousness itself is the instrument measuring reality, not the other way around. And if that is true, then your mind is not just observing the universe, it is participating in its structure. Every moment you live is filtered through perception, and perception is not passive. It selects, interprets, and constructs meaning, like a cosmic translator turning raw existence into something your human form can survive. This changes how you see your struggles. Because if your sense of time is flexible, then your suffering is not as permanent as it feels. Pain is not stretched endlessly through an unbreakable timeline. It is experienced through a mind that can compress, expand, and reinterpret it. What feels infinite is often a temporary distortion of awareness under pressure. And this is where a hidden strength begins to appear. If perception can bend time, then it can also reshape how you carry your past. The moments that feel heavy are not fixed weights attached to your identity. They are interpretations stored in a system that is still changing. You are not locked inside your previous experiences. You are continuously rewriting how they exist within you. Even your anticipation of the future is shaped the same way. What you fear tomorrow is not tomorrow itself, but your current projection of it, like imagining storms in distant galaxies without ever reaching them. Most of human anxiety lives in these projections, not in reality. And projections can shift the moment awareness changes direction. So the real question is no longer about what time is doing to you. It becomes about what your mind is doing with time. You are not a passive traveler inside a rigid structure. You are a consciousness moving through layers of interpretation, constantly reconstructing reality as it arrives. And once you see this clearly, something begins to loosen inside you. The pressure to keep everything under control starts to lose its grip because control was always based on a misunderstanding of how fluid experience truly is. Stay with this understanding because what comes next will go even deeper into what it means to exist inside a universe where even certainty begins to dissolve into possibility. If your awareness is shaping how time feels, then what is actually guiding the structure of reality itself? This question opens a deeper layer where certainty starts to lose its authority. In the quantum world, particles do not behave like tiny solid objects following predictable paths. They exist in states of probability, like unfinished sentences waiting for meaning. Nothing is fully defined until interaction occurs. It is as if existence hesitates, holding multiple versions of itself at once, waiting for observation to decide its direction. That idea alone changes everything you think you know about stability. Because if reality at its smallest level is uncertain, then the foundation beneath your experience is not fixed either. It is dynamic, responsive, almost like the universe is not a machine, but a living system constantly adjusting its form. And you, as a thinking being inside it, are not separate from that process. You are part of the interaction that brings definition into existence. This does not mean you control reality in a simple way. It means you are involved in how it becomes experienced. Think of deep space again, not as empty silence, but as a field filled with invisible interactions, gravitational pulls shaping motion across impossible distances, radiation carrying information through darkness, everything influencing everything else, even when separated by unimaginable gaps. Now imagine consciousness operating in a similar way, where attention acts like a force that shapes what becomes meaningful in your life. What you focus on begins to take form in your inner world, not as fantasy, but as priority. Your mind allocates energy, memory, and emotional weight based on attention. And over time, this creates a structured experience of existence. Not because reality itself is changing, but because your internal architecture is organizing it differently. This is why two people can live through the same moment and experience completely different realities. One may see chaos, the other may see opportunity. The external event is identical, but the internal universe is not. At the quantum scale, this mirrors something even more unsettling. Outcomes are not guaranteed until interaction collapses possibility into a single state. Before that point, multiple futures coexist as potential. It is not that one future is hiding. It is that several futures are suspended at once, waiting for conditions to determine which becomes visible. Now bring that idea back to your daily experience. You are constantly making choices, even in thought. Each choice narrows direction, each focus eliminates alternatives. And yet, those alternatives still exist as unrealized paths, like silent galaxies fading into the edge of perception. This creates a strange truth. Your life is not a single locked trajectory, it is a continuous selection from a field of possibilities. And this is where psychology meets something far more expansive. The mind is not just reacting to life, it is filtering it. Filtering what you notice, what you ignore, what you believe matters, and what disappears into background noise. Over time, this filtering becomes identity. You start to believe you are a fixed story when in reality you are an ongoing selection process. But selection implies choice, even when it feels automatic. Most people do not notice this because attention is usually pulled outward toward problems, expectations, and comparisons. It is like drifting through cosmic dust without realizing you are steering through it. Yet the direction of your attention determines the shape of your experience more than any external event. This is where a quiet power begins to emerge. If experience is shaped by what you consistently engage with, then your inner world is not static. It is adjustable. Not instantly, not effortlessly, but undeniably flexible over time. You are not trapped inside one mental configuration. You are capable of shifting focus, and that shift changes how reality is interpreted. It does not erase difficulty, but it changes the structure around it, like moving through different regions of space where the environment itself alters how movement feels. There is also a deeper layer to this. Humans often assume that clarity comes from certainty, but in both physics and psychology, certainty is rarely the starting point. It is the result of narrowing down uncertainty. The universe begins wide, not narrow, full of variation, not definition. And the mind follows a similar pattern when it is open enough to observe itself honestly. Uncertainty is not a failure of understanding. It is the natural state before structure forms. This means confusion is not something to escape immediately. It is often the space where new patterns are forming, like dark matter shaping unseen structure in galaxies before light reveals them. What feels unclear may actually be the beginning of a deeper alignment you have not recognized yet. And this reframes your internal struggles in a different way. Moments of doubt are not signs of collapse, they are transitions between versions of understanding. Your mind is not breaking when it questions reality, it is expanding beyond a previous limit. If the universe operates through probabilities, then certainty is always temporary. What remains stable is not fixed outcomes, but the underlying field of possibility itself. And you exist within that field, constantly interacting with it through thought, attention, and decision. So instead of asking why everything feels unstable, a more powerful question emerges. What becomes possible when instability is no longer seen as threat, but as structure? Stay with that question because the next layer will move even closer to the core of what it means to exist inside a reality that is still forming itself as you experience it. If uncertainty is the natural state of existence, then what happens to the idea of a fixed self moving through a fixed timeline? This question pulls everything inward towards something deeper than perception. Because once you accept that reality is not fully settled, you are forced to reconsider the thing experiencing it. You, not as a character in a story, but as awareness itself, moving through shifting layers of interpretation. In physics, observation is not passive, it influences outcomes. At the smallest scales, interaction changes what is possible. Nothing remains untouched once it is noticed. This creates a strange reflection. Your inner world behaves in a similar way. The moment you become aware of a thought, it changes shape. The moment you examine a feeling, it transforms. Nothing inside you remains identical once observed closely. So the act of awareness is not neutral. It is active participation. This means the sense of self you carry is not a solid object. It is a continuous process, built from memory, attention, emotion, and interpretation, all updating in real time. Like a vessel constantly rebuilt as it travels through cosmic currents, never holding the same exact form twice. Yet most people experience identity as if it is permanent, a single definition, a fixed position in time. But when you look closer, that definition keeps shifting depending on context. Around different people, your behavior changes. Under stress, your reactions change. In moments of clarity, your thinking changes. The you that feels stable is actually a moving pattern, not a static structure. And this is where a powerful realization begins to form. If identity is not fixed, then limitation is not fixed either. The mind often confuses repetition with permanence. If you have thought a certain way for years, it begins to feel like truth. But repetition is not law, it is conditioning, and conditioning can be rewritten even if it feels deeply embedded. Like rerouting a path through a vast planetary system, small shifts eventually lead to entirely different destinations. This is not instant transformation, it is gradual reorientation, but it is real. And just like in deep space, where small gravitational changes can alter the trajectory of entire systems over time, small changes in thought patterns can redirect the course of a life, not through force, but through direction, not through pressure, but through consistency. What you repeatedly give attention to becomes the dominant structure of your inner experience. Not because it is more real, but because it is more reinforced. The mind builds reality through reinforcement, not through truth alone. This is why two people can live in the same environment and experience completely different worlds. One may see restriction everywhere. Another may see possibility. The difference is not in the external universe. It is in the internal system interpreting it. And once you understand this, something subtle begins to shift. You stop seeing your thoughts as commands. You start seeing them as signals, temporary formations moving through awareness, not permanent definitions of who you are. This creates space, psychological space, the kind of space that allows change without collapse. Because when you are no longer identified completely with every thought, you are no longer trapped inside it. You can observe it like a passing wave in a vast cosmic ocean. That distance is not detachment from life, it is clarity inside it. There is also something deeper hidden here. In the same way the universe expands without needing permission, your inner world also expands when resistance decreases. When you stop trying to force stability onto everything, you begin to notice patterns that were always moving underneath the surface. Fear often comes from the desire to lock reality into certainty, but reality does not obey that need. It flows, it shifts, it reorganizes, like galaxies drifting through unseen expansion, always in motion, even when stillness is perceived. And your mind mirrors that same principle. The more you try to hold everything rigid, the more tension you create. The more you allow interpretation to soften, the more movement becomes natural again. This does not mean losing control. It means understanding that control was never about freezing life. It was about navigating it. When astronauts move through space, they do not fight the vacuum. They adapt to it. They understand the environment instead of resisting it. And in a similar way, mental strength is not about forcing stability. It is about learning how to move through instability without breaking. That is a different kind of power: quiet, steady, adaptive. It is the ability to remain present even when definitions dissolve, to keep awareness intact even when certainty fades, to continue moving forward even when identity feels fluid. And in that state, something unexpected happens. The pressure to become someone fixed begins to loosen. You stop chasing a final version of yourself because you realize there may never be one. There is only continuous becoming. This is not emptiness, it is openness. And openness is where growth becomes possible without resistance. Stay with this understanding, because what comes next will bring everything closer together, revealing how even the idea of time itself begins to lose its grip when seen through the lens of pure awareness.